In a remote village, lived a young girl called Eni. Eni was born into the family of Mr. and Mrs. Badmos. After her secondary education, she traveled to the city to live with her uncle. Eni's uncle promised to sponsor Eni to higher institutions, as that had always been her dream, to study engineering. On getting to Lagos, her uncle failed to keep his promise, and Eni was made a salesgirl in her uncle's shop. Eni was dedicated and industrious. She was involved in taking care of the house, preparing meals, and looking after her uncle's children, as the wife was always busy with work. 2 years gone, there was no hope for Eni to further her education. In the process, Eni met a young man called Jackson, a promising young businessman. Jack professed his love to Eni, and Eni, tired of the life she lived, accepted to befriend Jackson. He promised to send her back to school, and that year, Eni wrote JAM and passed her exam. True to his words, Eni was offered admission into the university, and Jackson paid for all her needs as she resumed school. Eni was in her second year at the university when Jackson asked for her hand in marriage. They traveled down to see Eni's parents, and they accepted him as their daughter's husband. After the introduction, they traveled back to Lagos, and a few months later, their wedding was conducted. Eni continued with her schooling after the wedding, and 3 months later, she found herself pregnant. She was happy, but it wasn't easy combining school with pregnancy. Within 3 years, Eni had given birth to 2 kids. Eni was busy with school activities that she hardly stayed at home. On her convocation day, Jackson came around to celebrate with his wife, and they all rejoiced and went back home. The next day, Eni decided to clean up the house. Just then, she discovered a box with a padlock. Jackson had gone out, and Eni wondered, "How will I open this box?" Just then, she decided to break the box. Shocked, Eni discovered